Here are your hosts, Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey.
You're listening to Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey on the Accelerated Wealth Show today, where you get retirement confidence in an uncertain world. This April is Parkinson's Awareness Month, and so we're especially happy to have Richard London. He's the author of Handbook for Life. Now, nothing seems to stop this guy from living life to the fullest, not even Parkinson's disease. You may know a little bit about Parkinson's, the fact that Michael J. Fox and Muhammad Ali, they both have it. Well, Richard London, he's going to share some vital information about the disease with us today and who's most at risk. And even more so, he's going to inspire you. He is successful. He's a happy guy. He's journeyed through some really tough things in life. And so no matter what you're going through, you're going to learn about him, and you're going to learn about how you can actually have a successful, happy life in the midst of some tough things.
Chris, his topic today, one of the things that he'll be sharing with us about is his battle with Parkinson's. And I watched my grandmother battle Parkinson's back in the late 60s, and she passed away when I was a senior in high school. And, she was an amazing lady. She was about 4x4. And by the time
one of those grandmas, 4x4,
yeah, and I have great memories of her walking around the table with a big bowl of mashed potatoes under her arm, and if you ate 4 bites, you got another big dollop on your plate, and made sure you never went hungry at her house. But by the time she passed away from Parkinson's disease, Chris, she was less than 60 pounds.
Wow!
And that was so hard to watch, and yet through it all, my grandfather took care of her and kept her in the home the whole time, and just modified the house to make it livable for them. But what an experience to see the devastating effects that this disease can have.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that we've got Richard. I'm glad that we have you on today. Let me just introduce you a little bit and tell our listeners about you. Richard is the host of the internet talk show Health Chat with Richard London. He's also an author and a motivational speaker, and he's actually is a person with Parkinson's disease, so he's dealing with this personally. He speaks across the United States and Canada, and he shares the secrets with people with Parkinson's disease and their caregivers on how to live well with this disease. Richard's also pretty amazing because listen to this. He's undergone 9 surgeries following a life-challenging automobile accident that put him in and out of hospitals for 10 months. He's also a cancer survivor and has since earned a black belt in jiu-jitsu, scuba diving, and he's written 2 books. So you don't mess with this guy. I mean, he's been through it, and he can give it right back and dish it right back in life. So, Richard, thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the show.
Chris, thank you, Doug. Pleasure to be here.
Right. Richard, you've overcome a lot. I really admire you for your tenacity and your ability to push through some of the roadblocks and difficult times in life. What's the secret? What has given you that drive to push through some tough times in life and still make the most of it?
I think, Chris, that one of the biggest things is understanding that we can control our attitude. We can't change much else. We can't control much else in our lives. We can control our attitude.
Okay.
And just decided to stop looking on life as making me a victim.
Wow.
What are some of the common misunderstandings, Richard, about Parkinson's disease?
I think, Doug, one of the biggest ones is people think Parkinson's is an old person's disease. The reality is anybody diagnosed with Parkinson's under the age of 50 is considered young onset. 20% of the people being diagnosed these days are actually under 50 years old. 10% of the people are under 40 years old. And I personally know 3 people diagnosed with Parkinson's in their 20s.
Wow.
So why is exercise so important with this particular disease, Richard?
One of the biggest things, the medicine that they developed, by the way, this gold standard medicine, levodopa, that they still use today, is probably the medicine that your grandmother took. It was the first real medication that they made for Parkinson's, and it's still the gold standard. The problem is all the medicine does is it hides the symptoms. It masks the symptoms as the disease progresses. And you're talking about exercise. As I travel across the U.S. and Canada, and also from my own experience personally with my body, exercise is one of the few things that you can do to actually reverse the symptoms of Parkinson's disease.
Why does that work? How does that happen?
What it's doing is it's going back to the old philosophy of use it or lose it. Your brain synapses, you need to keep them firing. You need to keep movement. You need to have your muscles stay active and keep those pathways, those neural pathways in the brain, keep them going. The problem with Parkinson's is people with Parkinson's lose dopamine in the brain, and dopamine is one of the chemicals that your body produces so that the signals can go from the brain to the rest of the body. So you got to keep the body moving in order to keep it rebuilding itself, even as the disease progresses.
Well, exercise is always good. There's so many things that bring that back. You know, if you've just joined us, we're talking to Richard London. He's the author of A Handbook for Life, A Practical Guide to Success and Happiness. He's also dealing with Parkinson's disease, and he speaks all over the country, talking to both people that have Parkinson's as well as caregivers. We're learning about that today. And Richard, I really like what you said about, you've been through some tough things. And what you said here was you can control your attitude, stop looking like a victim, and that's what's made a huge difference on your life. And we work with people with their money all the time. We work with retirement, and that's why we bring things that are just beyond money, because it's about life and how can you make the most out of it. But so many times we find that people don't take control of what they actually have control over, whether it's where their finances are or how much risk they're taking. Well, it's the same thing with your attitude. You can take control of that, and that seems like that has made a huge difference for you. Tell me, in the midst of all the things that you've been dealing with your health and your Parkinson's disease, how did changing your attitude make a difference for you?
I would go back actually to when I started. I was 19 years old. I was in that automobile accident you were talking about, and at the time, my major in college was law enforcement. I thought I'd be a special agent for the FBI. I was lying in a hospital after a severe accident and had already had a couple surgeries. Thought my whole life was shattered. And, as a 19-year-old, you think that 25, 30 years old is old and long time in your life. But I realized that I had a choice. I could either continue to wallow in self-pity or realize that I had control over what I did and the attitude and couldn't control the situations that I was given. And right then and there, I decided to make a change. Actually wound up changing my major to computers and had a 35-plus year career in the computer industry. So you can't change the cards you're dealt, just how you play the hand.
So what would you say to our listeners, Richard? What's the most important thing for somebody who's facing health challenges in their life right now to do?
One of the biggest things to help get out of that self-pity concept is understand there's always somebody out there worse off than you, and always somebody better off than you. And be grateful for what you have, for what you can do, and look at each day to say, what am I going to do today to make this the best day that I can?
Those are some great life lessons. So Richard, did this lead you into writing your book, The Handbook for Life? And you have an audio series that goes along with it, correct?
Yes, A Handbook for Life. It starts with A, by the way.
Okay. A Handbook for Life.
A Handbook for Life. But
tell us about the book.
Here's how the book came about. I had the 9 surgeries from the motorcycle accident. I had survived prostate cancer. I was already diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And despite that, I found myself doing a lot of things you're talking about, picking myself up, enjoying life, doing things, and realized that there were people that had a fraction of the challenges that I had who basically have already given up. And I stopped and I said, well, what's making me different? And what can I do to help impart those thought processes to other people? And that's how the book came about.
Give us a little more detail what's in the book, Richard. How are the things that you share different from maybe some other resources, materials?
There's a lot of other really good self-help books out there, and I had read a number over the years. I would imagine you guys have been exposed to them also.
Sure.
The issue that I find with a lot of self-help stuff is it asks so much of the reader to basically change so many things in their life around. Somebody will read the book, put it down, never pick it up, and never act on it. So I specifically designed a Handbook for Life as a very quick read. It's a very short book. You can actually read it in one sitting. But at the end of each chapter, there are exercises that ask the reader to go and evaluate a certain part of their life or do something different. And then an exercise say, okay, now over the next week, go and do this. So somebody it's a quick read. They can pick it up. They can do the exercise here or there. And they're more likely, I find from what people are telling me, they're more likely to actually get the benefit because there's a simple action that's being asked of them, not a total revamping of their entire lifestyle.
Hey, you're listening to Accelerated Wealth, where you get retirement confidence in an uncertain world. We're talking today with Richard London, author of A Handbook for Life. And coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to talk about how not to run out of money and blow up your retirement. We're going to talk about the 4 things that your money must do to make sure that doesn't happen. We'll be right back.
Let's go back to Doug Berkey and Chris Abeyta for more about your financial future with Accelerated Wealth.
Hey, welcome back. We're talking to guest Richard London. He's the author of A Handbook for Life. It's a practical guide to success and happiness. Now, Richard also has Parkinson's disease, and he has spoken all across the United States and Canada, helping those with Parkinson's as well as their caregivers. Richard, tell me a little bit about how important it is of working with the patients or their care partners. What do you do with them?
Well, the care partners, are generally loved ones, family members, don't have to be, but they're almost the unsung heroes.
Yeah. As it is with anybody that's got an illness, there's always the family members around that are carrying a lot of the weight as well.
Exactly, and the care partners can feel overwhelmed sometimes. They can get to feel resentful, and they need to find their own support mechanisms for themselves. They need to make contact with other care partners, either in a support group. Get out. Don't be afraid. The biggest thing that I tell a care partner is don't be afraid to ask for help from somebody.
Tell our listeners right now, let's say that you're speaking to 2 people. One, somebody that has Parkinson's, but I would say even more the caregiver, because there's a lot more caregivers probably around those who do have the disease. What special message would you give them right now to encourage them?
First of all, understand with Parkinson's, while it's classified as a degenerative neurological disease, and currently Western medicine has no cure for it, it is not a death sentence.
Okay.
There are people living well with Parkinson's disease in 20-plus years post-diagnosis. Wow.
That is good news. Okay.
Yeah. So, it's changing your lifestyle. It's redefining your normal. What was normal before is not necessarily normal now, and that's okay. For the person with Parkinson's, the recommendation is accept what you can do, accept there's things that you may not be able to do, but do something every day. The disease is going to progress whether you push against it or not. So that's my advice to the person with Parkinson's. To the care partner, and I'm sure that you're going out and you're giving of yourself, your time, your life. Don't be afraid to accept help from somebody else. Don't be afraid to go out and find someone, whether it's another family member or dropping the person with Parkinson's off at an activity center or something, and going out and spending time so that you can regenerate your battery. You can't help the other person if you're burnt out. Yeah, that is so important. So important. And we've had the Alzheimer's Association on as well. They have a great website that probably has a lot of the same ideas and care that you can find I think it's the Alzheimer's Association here in Colorado Springs. Richard, how can people get a hold of your book? How can they, you've got a couple websites as well. How can they find more information about what they can do to both help themselves and help their care partners and be encouraged in a tough situation? Well, some of the material that I put together, especially for the Parkinson's, can be available at parkinsonstips.com, www.parkinsonstips.com. There's an audio CD for 10 Things Every Person with Parkinson's Must Know.
Okay.
An audio CD, 10 Things Every Caregiver Must Know, and the book, A Handbook for Life, are all available on that website. That's probably the easiest one for people to remember.
All right. Okay.
And if they can't remember the website, if they Google Richard London Parkinson's, they'll probably find me somehow.
Okay, Google Richard London Parkinson's as well, or a tip. Okay, say the website one more.
That's just parkinsonstips.com.
Parkinsonstips.com. You can probably also find that on our Facebook page, The Accelerated Wealth Show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Any final thoughts for our listeners?
I just want to just point back out. Attitude is everything in life. You're not a victim. You can make the best out of any situation. And specifically about Parkinson's, it's not a death sentence. There's plenty of people out there that have figured out how to live long, enjoyable lives with the disease.
Richard, thank you so much for the encouragement today. I hope that's been really encouraging to those of you listening, those of you who maybe you have Parkinson's or maybe you have a loved one or a friend that does. Share these resources with them. I think they're must-have resources. Richard, thanks again for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
You bet.
So some of you may be wondering why we're talking to somebody about Parkinson's disease today. And the fact of the matter is that all of us, as we get older, face challenges in our life. And it's not just about financial freedom. It's also about our health and the choices that we make. And one of the things that I admire about Richard is that he's making choices that are affecting his future by taking action, by taking a powerful position, Chris, and living a life of freedom because of some of the choices that he's making. And so we try to coordinate and realize that here at Accelerated Wealth, it's not just about how your finances are positioned. It's also your attitude toward life and wanting you to be healthy in all areas, including health. So that's why we enjoy having people like Richard on today in Parkinson's Awareness Month.
And what a tough guy. What a great attitude. You can control your attitude. Stop looking like a victim. And I think this is a good time kind of for us to transition over to the rest of our show. We're talking about now how not to blow up your retirement or how to run out of money in retirement. And, there's some things we can take from that. One is Richard took some real proactive steps. He didn't just life happened to the guy. Car accidents, cancer, Parkinson's, surgery. There's always somebody worse off than you. And if you think about that, it might make you feel a little bit better about your situation. But when it comes to your money, there's other people worse off than you. I sat with a couple just the other day, and they don't have a lot. Very sweet couple. Both retired. She's had some health issues and some health challenges, and they've depleted some of their cash reserve. And we were talking about where some of the other reserves are in this account that we have with them that we can either turn on an income stream or we can use it as an emergency fund, or they've got some strong equity in their house that if we needed to, we could do a reverse mortgage for them. And, the situation, it didn't look great, but he looked at me and he said, I'm just so grateful that we have some great options here. And we're so much better off than so many other people. Mm. And, it's relative wherever you're at. But two reasons he was able to say that. Number one is his outlook on life was positive, and he could see where he was at compared to others, and it made him grateful. The other thing is he had a plan that gave him options, And so maybe you don't have a plan, or let me just start with this question. Let's start it off today, Doug, as we move into this. On a scale of 1 to 10, are you 10 being great, 1 being I don't have a clue? Are you completely confident that the plan you have right now, the retirement strategy you have, is going to give you the lifestyle you want in retirement? And so I want you to rate yourself, scale of 1 to 10. Where are you? And if you're not hitting a 9 or a 10, that you are completely 100% sure that the plan you have is going to get you the lifestyle and the safety and the security that you want in retirement, something's wrong. We need to sit down. You need to do something different because you've got lots and lots of uncertainty. And so there's some things coming up that we can help you with. Number one, we have somebody very special. We interviewed him last week. He is the lead portfolio manager. We are doing an investment summit this week that's coming up this Thursday evening. It is featuring the latest innovative strategies from our lead investment portfolio manager. At this event, you're going to discover how to get the biggest returns with a fraction of the risk. You'll discover how to make money even when the stock market is going down and how your accounts can go up when they're going down. How a dramatic impact of an actively managed investment strategy can have on your portfolio, and really how to protect yourself from the next market crash. So if you're interested in joining this free educational event, it is Thursday evening, April 30th. You need to give us a call. This is specifically for people that have a portfolio of $200,000 or more. Now, nothing will be sold. You can't buy anything. It's just an educational summit. At this investment summit, to reserve your seat, give us a call. It's 466-5634. That's 466-5634 to reserve your spot. Doug, let's talk about how not to run out of money. What are the things that your money have to do, and what do people need to do differently to take action to make sure that doesn't happen?
Well, Chris, one of the things that you need to do is probably follow Warren Buffett's advice, and that is, first investment strategy should be not to lose any money. Yeah. And then he says the second rule is refer to rule number 1.
Don't lose money. Yeah.
And so one of the ways we win in these managed portfolios is by not losing money. And that sounds like a simple concept, but unfortunately that's not the way most of the financial world tends to advocate the buy and hold strategy. Yeah. And one of the ways to get out of the hole is to stop digging.
Yeah. Well, and here's what I see. Most people now, every portfolio, anything that's in the market's not guaranteed. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. But there are asset classes that you can get into as part of your portfolio that will not go down. They'll actually go up with the market, but when the market crashes down, you lose nothing. You actually get a zero that year because you're secure and you've got your principles protected. So here's the number one mistake I see people making. You're taking too much risk. And you got to stop taking too much risk. This is what blows up, and this is what can destroy your retirement. Here's the thing. Most of the time, what I find is the reason you are taking too much risk is you don't know any different. That's one reason. You don't know. Individuals come down, they sit with us all the time, and when we analyze their situation and analyze their portfolio, just like we'll do for you, we begin to reveal that maybe you think you're conservative, maybe you think that you're doing okay, but you might have way more risk. And here's the problem. What happens when the next market crash comes? Have you done anything different than you did when 2008 happened? If you got too much risk, it could be a devastating nightmare waiting to happen. We have to talk about that. So when we come back, we're going to talk about what are some things you can do to stop taking so much risk, why you might be taking so much risk, and then what are some of the things to really mitigate that risk and get yourself closer to a position where your plan is scoring a 10 and you're actually able to live the lifestyle you want in retirement. This is Chris Abeyta with Accelerated Wealth. When we come right back, we're going to dive into the 4 things that you need to do to not run out of money and the 4 things that your money has to do for you so that you can enjoy your retirement peacefully. We'll be right back.
Let's go back to Doug Berkey and Chris Abeyta for more about your financial future with Accelerated Wealth.
Welcome back to Accelerated Wealth. We're talking about how not to blow up and destroy your retirement, a.k.a. how to not run out of money in retirement. Now, you may be driving in the car right now, or maybe tomorrow you're driving to work. I want you to just imagine this. Imagine Monday morning you're driving to work, and it's not because you have to go to work. It's not because you need the paycheck. But you're driving to work actually because you got up this morning and you wanted to go. And this is actually what you love doing. It's your choice. Now, imagine the freedom and the power that comes with having that choice. That's what it's like to be financially independent. And that's why we do this show, is to help you get into that place where you have that freedom. You have the ability to live the life you're going to live because you know that your retirement strategy is in place. You know when you're going to retire, you know how much income you're going to have, and you don't have to worry about the next market crash that could steal all that peace and all that freedom away from you. And so today we're talking about how not to run out of money in retirement. If you don't have that, if you don't have that peace, if you don't have that freedom, if your plan on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being that freedom and 1 being I am so far from that, if you're not hit an 8 or a 9, you need to listen to what we're talking about. Give us a call. Let us sit down. We'll do a free portfolio analysis review. It's free of charge. The number you can call to get a hold of us is 466-5634. That's 466-5634. Now, also coming up, I want to let you know, this Thursday night, we have a special educational investment summit. Our lead portfolio manager, Greg Indovina, who was on our show last week, he's coming into town. This is a gentleman that manages tens and tens of millions of dollars in portfolio management. He's going to be available there to actually walk you through different strategies that we use as part of that retirement strategy to get you into that peace of mind. Here's the things that we're going to discuss and you're going to learn. You're going to learn how you can possibly even outperform the market and get great returns with a fraction of the risk of the market. How to make money even when the stock market is going down. And when somebody is actively managing a portfolio for you and they're doing it right and protecting you on the downside, the dramatic impact that can actually have on your gains as well as protecting you when the market goes down. And you're going to see how you can actually be protected from the next major market crash. This is a free event. It is not a dinner workshop. It is completely different than that. You can't buy anything. It's just educational, specifically designed for people. If you've got a portfolio of $200,000 or more, it's on Thursday, April 30th. You can't buy anything. Give us a call to reserve your seat. The number is 719-466-5634. That's 719-466-5634. Give us a call now to reserve your spot.
When was the last time you had a chance to actually listen to the person that's going to be potentially managing your money and even ask them questions? This is a great opportunity for folks to see us pull back the curtain on some of the strategies that have performed so extraordinarily well over the last number of years.
Absolutely. So, Doug, we were talking, right before we came back in, we were talking about how not to run out of money. And the biggest mistake that people are making is taking way too much risk,
Absolutely. I mean, if you're close to retirement and you're 100% in the market and those market positions are subject to huge downturns, you're taking way too much risk.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
I can think of 3 families that have just come in, and maybe you're in the same situation. They came in, we sat down, we started looking at their situation, and as we looked at where they had all of their money, they didn't have much of a plan, but they said, hey, can you help us out? So we looked at it, and we found that 80 to 90% of their entire life savings, and these are people that are in their 60s, were all at risk in the stock market. And so if or when we go through another market correction or another major financial crisis and the market goes down, they run the risk of losing 30 or 40% of their entire life savings. Now, I know right now the markets are at an all-time high. They're pushing highs, and you don't feel like there's a risk right now. But remember, they were pushing all-time highs in 2007, right before the crash. They were pushing all-time highs in the year 2000. And so this is what you have to figure out. Ask yourself this question. Are we taking too much risk? And when we looked at their situation, 80 to 90% of their entire life savings was in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, including bond mutual funds, which they thought were safe. We did a little analysis for them, and the amount of money that they were just pulling out of their accounts, we helped them realize that they were actually going to run out of money in their mid to late 70s with the strategy they were using, and I think that was not even including a market crash. So maybe you just don't know. And here's the other reason why most people take too much risk is you just don't know any better. You've been using an outdated stocked bond, large cap, mid cap, small cap. We call that a buy and hold type of mutual fund strategy. And it got totally destroyed in 2008. It's going to get destroyed again. So that's reason number one is why why people take too much risk. They just don't know any different. And so if you don't know, come to one of our workshops or this educational summit, or just give us a call. We'll do a free portfolio analysis review for you to help you find that peace of mind you're looking. Again, you can find us on acceleratedwealth.com or 466-5634. That's 466-5634. Doug, what's the second reason why so many people are taking way too much risk than they should be?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of the advisors that they have been dealing with are focused strictly on how much return on investment, how can I chase that 1% higher yield that I might be able to get this year, and they aren't trained in retirement strategies. And if you're close to retirement, you need to employ a different strategy. And unfortunately, we don't see that very much. People seem to think they can use the same strategy at 64 that they did at 24, and that's just not the case.
It is so different. You're exactly right. And this is number 2, is not understanding your season of life. This is one of the ways not to run out of money. If you don't understand your season of life, if you don't understand how close you are to retirement compared to maybe where you were 10, 15, 20, even 30 years ago, those require very different strategies. And just real quick, we'll explain. There's 3 different seasons of financial planning. Number 1 is accumulation. This is where you get out of college, you're in your 20s, 30s, maybe even your 40s, and you are just accumulating assets. And your goal is you just want that money to grow. I want a strong return on investment. I can handle some losses because everything's on sale. I'll just put more money in. Well, you get into the next season, and this is what we call the retirement hazard zone. This is where everything begins to tighten up. You're 0 to maybe 12 years away from retirement. And if you go through, let's say you're 5 years away from retirement and you lose 30 or 40% of your entire life savings, okay? You've saved for 40 years, and in 7 months you lose 40% of it. Boom. You're not retiring in 5 years. You've just blown up your retirement plan because you had way too much risk. And again, this is the number one mistake we see people making, carrying way too much risk in the wrong season of their life. And then the third phase is when you actually have to depend on that money to create the paychecks for you because you're not creating them anymore at work. That money has to start creating paychecks for you. So the question is, where are you? Okay, what season of life are you in? And when you understand that season, does your financial plan match the season that you're in?
Well, no doubt. I mean, all of us understand that when we have little kids or when we were kids, our parents took us to a pediatrician. As we were adults, we went to a general practitioner. And as we move into the later years, we tend to go to specialists. No matter how much we like our general practitioner, if we have a heart problem, we're not going to the general practitioner. We're going to that specialist because he has specific training in the area that affects our life. And so we think it might be time, if you're close to retirement, to graduate from somebody who's an accumulation advisor, who's focused on just growth, to somebody who specializes in retirement strategy to preserve that money. Because as we've seen in the last two market corrections, Chris, wealth can be lost so much faster than it can be accumulated.
Oh, it absolutely can. You know that. You're listening right now, and you know that, man, you remember when you got those statements back in 2008 and 2009, you didn't want to open them because you were losing entire year's salaries, month by month, just disappearing and going away. And you really have to think about this. It is very different using somebody who is a retirement specialist, a fiduciary, somebody that has to look out for your best interest when it comes to your season of life. Don't be using the wrong type of a strategy or an outdated buy and hold type of a mutual fund strategy. So here's what has. You have to take action. You have to do something different. So people that take action, that are intentional, they're the ones that have the ability to drive to work because they want to. You're the one that has the ability to know that you're going to work because you want to go, it's what you love doing, and that your financial plan is secure in the future. Now, for those of you who don't know that, it doesn't mean that you're not intelligent. It doesn't mean that you're not smart. It just means that you're passive or that you're just so busy. And you got to break out of life. You got to break out of the normal things that you do and say, you know what, I got to push hold. I got to push pause. I got to jump out of the rat race of life, and I got to take a little bit of time to get some help and have somebody help me intentionally structure to make sure I'm not taking too much risk, that I'm going to be protected in the next market crash, and that I can actually project what my retirement is going to be and see, am I on track or am I off track? So if you want that help, give us a call. The number is 466-5634. That's 719-466-5634. We're going to help you identify where you're at, get back on track. We'll push the pause button. We'll do the heavy lifting for you, but we will help you. When we come back, we're going to talk about the 4 things that your money has to be doing for you so that you don't blow up your retirement or run out of money in retirement. You're listening to Accelerated Wealth with Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey. We'll be right back.
Let's go back to Doug Berkey and Chris Abeyta for more about your financial future with Accelerated Wealth.
Hey, welcome back. You're listening to Accelerated Wealth with Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey, where you get retirement confidence in an uncertain world. Hey, we're talking today about, right before the break, we talked about the 4 things your money must do in order to make sure you don't run out of money in retirement. And really what we're searching for, Doug, is that ultimate, is getting you that peace of mind that you just have this sense of security. And you know, I am never going to run out of money in retirement. I am always going to have income. I'm always going to have enough to take care of the things I need. Isn't that a great place to be?
Absolutely.
And so the question is, are you there? And if you're not there, to listen to the things that your money must do, and then ask yourself, is my money doing these things for me? Is my money working for me? Is my money positioned in a way that it's helping me do, what my money needs to do in order for me to feel great about my future? So here's number 1. Write this down if you're listening, or just put this in your mind if you're driving right now. Your money must, here's the first thing, it must accurately project out what your income is going to be when you retire, when you stop working. So this is very different than thinking about a return. Okay, return on investment. Is my money getting 10%? Is it getting 13%? Is it getting 5%? That's all the ends to a means, or the means to an end. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get your money to grow. But now, if you're 10 years away from retirement, if you're 5 years, if you're 2 years, if you're actually in retirement, you must be able to take a portion of that nest egg that you've got and accurately project out. Here's how much income you're going to have as long as you're alive. So you go from thinking about return to thinking about the guarantee of lifetime income, paychecks that you can never outlive. So these paychecks, they have to cover you as long as you're alive. That's number one. If you don't have income, you're not retired. So, Doug, what are some of the solutions that we have for that?
There are a number of tools, Chris, that can be used to give you predictable income. Obviously, one of them might be a fixed indexed annuity where you participate in the upside of the market, but you don't participate in the downs. Mm-hmm. And some of these institutions are incredibly strong, have tremendous track records, and provide you as much security as you could possibly look for. And you can see out into the future about what your income is going to be year by year, and they are designed to increase to hopefully keep up with inflation.
Yeah. So here's a couple things about those. Number one, they're protected accounts. Your money's not actually in the stock market. So during the next crash, let's say you're 5 years away from retirement, if the market crashes, you lose nothing. You lose nothing that year. But when the market recovers or when it goes up, you actually participate and you get a portion of the growth when the stock market goes up. So it's a way to capture gains in the stock market without getting any of the losses. So that keeps your money, or a portion of your money, part of your portfolio, protected as you march towards retirement. But where they're really cool, and they're specifically designed for the baby boomer generation as you guys are getting closer to retirement, is you can actually turn them on and they become a private pension. And so you can, when you stop taking a paycheck from work, you turn this on and it becomes a paycheck. So you add it to your Social Security. If you've got a pension, you add it to your pension. And the next thing you know is you've got a monthly direct deposit coming right into your account. Guess what? For as long as you live, and if you're married, for as long as your spouse lives. And if you design it correctly and use the right kind of tools, you can actually get it to go up as inflation goes up. So it's going to help you maintain in inflation. So number one is, that sound good? If that sounds good and you're interested in that, give us a call. We can talk about how to put that into your portfolio. The number's 466-5634. If you don't have this in your portfolio, it's called a fixed indexed annuity as part of the income producing portion of your portfolio. You're probably missing one of the most important asset classes. And I'm not talking a variable annuity. I'm talking fixed index. You do not want a variable annuity. We can talk all about why. The fees are huge. You can lose money because it's basically a bunch of mutual funds wrapped in fees. But if you don't have this in your portfolio, give us a call, 466-5634. 466-5634. We can teach you more about this and see if it's a good fit for where you're at. So, Doug, that was number one. Your money must accurately project out what your income is in retirement. And if you don't have that, again, give us a call. We can help you do that. Number two, what does your money have to do if you're going to be safe in retirement and not run out of money?
Well, because inflation doesn't stop just because we retire, Chris, your income has to increase in retirement. So wherever you place your money, it has to be designed where it purposely goes up year after year in income, so hopefully keep up with inflation. Our listeners have heard me tell the story when the year my wife was born, a house in America cost $3,900.
Gosh, when was that? Like 1800?
1949. And so, what are things going to cost 20 or 30 years from now? And when you actually put numbers to it, it's startling. So you better plan for that now. Otherwise, you're going to have to decrease your lifestyle as inflation increases, and nobody wants to have to face that.
Yeah, that's so true, because your lifestyle will get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed as groceries go up, as gasoline goes up, as just medical care goes up. So when you're building a retirement plan, you have to plan for inflation, because you're going to be retired for 25, maybe even 30 years, maybe more. And so your income can't be static. It has to go up, and that's why you got to use the right tools. So here's one of the other solutions that we use for this. This is in our investment basket. These is a securities type of a tool. Basically, it's an actively managed account that we like to use. We don't like to use mutual funds in this situation, because mutual funds, they tend to go up when the market goes up, which is great, but when the market crashes, they really go down. So if you've got the right type of an actively managed investment strategy, here's what can happen. You can actually be in the market when the market's going up, and then watching the triggers, the strategy's doing this for you, watching the data, watching the triggers, watching all the information that will tell you when it is very, very likely or high possibility that the market is going to go down for a long time. And then the manager of that portfolio will move you into either a safe position or a position that potentially can go up when the stock market is going down.
Doesn't my mutual fund manager do that for me now, Chris?
No, this is a great fallacy. I'm glad you brought that up, Doug. A mutual fund manager cannot do this, and this is why a lot of people think that their mutual fund is really actively managed. But if a mutual fund manager sees this data that the stock market is about to go through a major crash or a major correction, by law, they cannot move to cash and protect your values. Why? Because the prospectus says they have to stay 90% invested into whatever they said they were going to be invested. So if you have a large cap mutual fund, or if you have an S&P type mutual fund, they have to stay invested in those companies, even if those companies are going off the cliff. They cannot go to cash like an actively managed account can. The only person that can make them go to cash is you. And so if you're concerned because you're stuck in mutual funds and you think, man, I thought my guy was watching this, or I thought my mutual fund manager would do this. It doesn't happen that way. So if you're interested in taking a look, we actually have something coming up. If you'd like to learn more about actively managed accounts, okay, we have an event coming up. It is an educational event. It's not dinner. It's not about annuities. It's not anything. It is specifically on actively managed investment strategies. It is done by the lead portfolio manager here at Accelerated Wealth. And what he's going to show is how over time you have the ability possibly to outperform the market, but at a fraction of the risk. So being in the market when it's going up and protecting your downside, or even making money when the stock market is actually going down. Okay, how to protect your money. But here's the big thing for inflation is if we can get this thing to grow like it has and continue to grow, then you can use this in your retirement to adjust for inflation and take more money out, take growth out, and keep your lifestyle where it needs to be. And so we've got that event coming up. It's a free educational event. It's this Thursday, April 30th in the evening. You can't buy anything. Nothing will be sold. To reserve your seat, call 719-466-5634. That's 719-466-5634. Say, I'm interested in the investment summit. Okay, it is for portfolios. You have to have more than $200,000 because when you're actively managing, to be able to break it up into all the pieces that it's managed, you have to have a certain volume in there. So say, I want to join the investment summit. Give us a call, 466-5634, and you can actually meet the lead portfolio manager. You'll be able to ask him questions and find out why this is a lot different than anything you've ever done before, or anything that you're in right now, and why it is a much better strategy than a mutual fund strategy, or having just a buy and hold strategy of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So, Doug, that's number two. Number three, how to make sure you do not run out of money in the market not run out of money in retirement, is you got to have a strategy that provides for the surviving spouse. So, guys, let me talk to you right now. We know that gentlemen pass away usually before the wife. And typically what happens is the spouse is left she loses a Social Security check. She loses lots of money, maybe a pension. And so you have to have a plan that actually addresses that, so that when a spouse passes away, income comes in and actually takes care of that missing income.
Sure. So we can design something, Chris, where an additional stream of income turns on when that spouse is lost, to make up for that portion of the pension that might be lost and the one Social Security check that will be lost. And statistically speaking, men go 7 years before women.
Yeah.
So we've worked all our lives to take care of our wives the best way we can. Why would we stop now?
Don't stop. If you're missing this and you don't have it, give us a call, 466-5634. Come to our investment summit, 466-5634. Also, catch us tomorrow. We're almost out of time here. Catch us tomorrow, Money Mondays with Jim Arthur at 8:10 on your morning drive to work. Let's make it one less Monday as you get closer to retirement. Hey, thanks for joining us today. This is Chris Abeyta and Doug Berkey. You've been listening to Accelerated Wealth, where you get retirement confidence in the midst of a crazy world. Have a great Sunday afternoon.
The opinions on this radio talk show are those of Mr. Abeyta, Mr. Walton, and their guest speakers, not necessarily those of Accelerated Wealth, LLC. The radio talk show may contain forward-looking statements, including but not limited to statements as to future events that involve various risks and uncertainties. Forward-looking statements involve known and unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors that may cause actual events or results to differ materially than those that were forecast. Therefore, no forecast should be construed as a guarantee. Investing in security and annuities involves a risk of principal loss. Prior to making any investment decision, a listener should consult a professional to determine the risk, benefits, fees associated with a particular investment. Info obtained by a third-party resource is considered reliable, but accuracy cannot be guaranteed.